My dear brothers and sisters, I congratulate the Ganges, Mississippi dialogue being organized on October 3rd in the form of webinar. Rightly, the subject chosen is to utilize the techniques of yoga for cardiovascular diseases.
Talking to you today, a role of yoga therapy in the prevention of cardiovascular disease.
The situation is getting so bad that it may come to a time when it will be impossible to control the number of deaths from heart disease if we don't look back, understand the problem and take care of it.
Urgent necessity to improve the bodily immunity by connecting with the Mother Nature and adopting the natural way of life. The answer lies in yoga.
Namaskar. Welcome all to the Ganges, Mississippi Dialogue presented by American Academy of Yoga and Meditation. Every year, more than 17 million lives are lost globally to heart-related disease. In spite of advancement in medical field, every 36 seconds, America loses a loved one to heart disease. India is soon becoming the capital of cardiovascular disease. The premature deaths and management of disease results in loss of productivity and further burdens already sustained and strained healthcare resources. Can a holistic approach towards managing cardiovascular disease provide solution and help the humanity to stem the tide of ever-increasing cardiovascular morbidity and mortality? On the occasion of World Heart Day, American Academy of Yoga and Meditation has invited global experts in the field of medicine and yoga to talk on the topic of yoga in prevention and management of cardiovascular disease and to provide expert insight into a holistic and integrative approach to cardiovascular diseases. Before we bring on our experts, I take this opportunity to thank our sponsors, RR Cable, and our associates, Association of Indian Physicians of Northern Ohio and Federation of India Community Association. I now invite Dr. Rena and Dr. Mehta from IPNO, Ms. Ritu Mahana and Mr. Sudarshan Sathe from FICA to say a few words.
Thanks, Anjali. Good evening and good morning to the people of the US viewer. I'm Dr. Rena. I'm the president of All Indian Association of Northern Ohio, which has been established in 1983. And the intention of this association was to create the medical awareness, to provide health-related education to an extent with the vision and leadership of this founder members. We have now 600 physicians in the All Indian North Ohio Association. COVID has changed the paradigm of health, the paradigm of education. So with all the initiative that we took this year, focused on health and awareness, that I had a talk with Dr. Indraneet Basure. He's a good friend of mine, and Dr. Basure is also our EPNO family, and we have made this contribution to jointly with FICA to educate the people with the cardiovascular health disease and how to prevent. Primordial prevention is the key. My special thanks to Dr. Nagendra for giving us this opportunity to EPNO on the behalf of the Executive Committee of All Indian Physicians of North Ohio and the BOT, and especially the BOT Chair, Dr. Mukunda. I want to thank you for this collaboration, and I'm looking forward for more collaborative work, because health awareness and primordial prevention is the key that EPNO mandate work on. Now I will give that to Dr. Mehta to discuss further initiative and his contribution. Dr. Mehta is the President-elect for 2021 for EPNO.
Thank you, Rupesh, for the introduction. Thank you, Anjali. Under the leadership of our President, Dr. Rupesh Rana, EPNO has had a very busy year this time. Even though with the COVID, we were able to do a lot of virtual things. We were able to do a webinar for the healthcare professional. We also had a webinar series for education, and we just finished the youth initiative. So EPNO had a very busy year this time, and we are looking for more and more events for next year. So thank you again. Thank you, AOIM, for giving us the opportunity for this event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaskar. My name is Ritu Mana. I'm President of Federation of India Community Association, known as FICA. We are very proud to sponsor and support the excellent initiative by American Academy of Yoga and Meditation. Federation of India Community Association in time of the pandemic has been helping families in need right now, not just the Indian family. We are helping families at large by providing them food, medication, small computers to the shelters where the kids can have education, and much more. And I thank our community and our board of Federation of India Community Association to give us the support. And now I'll introduce the chair of our board, Mr. Sudarshan Sathe.
Thank you, Ritu. Appreciate the wonderful remarks. FICA is the microcosm of India. Just as India is a vibrant, multi-religious, multi-ethnic, multilingual community, FICA is its microcosm in Cleveland, Ohio, or Northeast Ohio. And we are extremely proud to support this initiative of American Academy of Yoga and Meditation, because it is said that an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. And India has always had the genius for prevention, just as the American society has had the genius for cure. FICA has several initiatives with which we connect with the larger American community here. One is called Project Seva. As the name indicates, it is service to the needy. Second is Shiksha Dan. We do tutoring for disadvantaged children. We have a beautiful Indian cultural garden in Cleveland with the tallest upright statue of Mahatma Gandhi, and that is on Martin Luther King Boulevard, no less. We also have an initiative called Helping Hands for women and children in distress. And I'm also very proud to tell you that we in the Cleveland community created the first ever publication of Indian diaspora in America called Lotus. And all these initiatives have really blossomed under the leadership of Ritu Mahana. So we owe a debt of gratitude to her in Cleveland. And again, wonderful work. Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you all for sharing your thoughts with us. I thank Rituji, Sudarshanji, Dharmeshji, and Rupesh ji for their kind words. I take this opportunity to again thank our sponsors, RR Cable, who have been gracious enough to contribute to our cause. Now, to introduce our first guest, Dr. H.R. Nagendra ji, in a few words is almost impossible. Guruji, as he is fondly known, to all of us, is a doctorate in mechanical engineering. He started his profession as a faculty in prestigious institutions like NASA, IISc, and others. His journey in yogic sciences started in 1975 when he joined Vivekananda Kendra as a director, dedicating his life for the service of humanity. Presently, he is the president of Vivekananda Yoga Anusandhana Sansthan and Chancellor of Swami Vivekananda Yoga Research Foundation. He was conferred with Padma Shri in 2016 for his outstanding contribution in the field of yoga. I now request Guruji to put forth his thoughts on this topic of yoga in prevention and management of cardiovascular disease. Guruji.
Namaste. Thank you, Anjali, for your nice introduction. I first of all place on record our nice appreciations to Indranil Basure, who has been at the base of this wonderful webinar organization. And he has been associated with us for quite some time to bring in new dimensions in the treatment and management of cardiovascular diseases in India also, as it has been done to a great extent in the United States. All of you are familiar with the wonderful work of Dean Ornish, who has been able to show that the way of life, a yoga way of life, can even prevent the heart attacks, cardiovascular attacks, and 1 year of his follow-up has shown clearly how the blockage can be reduced effectively by systematic randomized control trials that he did. And since then, people have started understanding the role of yoga, relaxation, way of life, mind-body medicine in the application of cardiovascular diseases. Since then, in our Arogya Dham, we don't call it a hospital, we call a health home, a research health home. We have been treating large number of people with cardiovascular ailments, and we have got wonderful results, as good as probably what Dean Ornish has done. But our important thing that came up is in dealing with CABG. When the people were getting rehabilitated after the cardio artery block, this thing, and they were able to continue. So we had a 10 years follow-up work in Narayana Hrudayalaya. Many of you may be aware of Dr. Devi Shetty, one of the top cardiac expert in our country, who heads the wonderful heart hospital called Narayana Hrudayalaya. It is very near our campus, only about 5 kilometers from here, and he has been very closely associated with us. So we set up our integrative medical center in Narayana Hrudayalaya almost 20 years back, and we have been introducing the dimensions of yoga in all its holistic perspective into the patients who come there. This is the one that brought a new dimension of bringing people and giving them the yoga practices for long duration and have the long-term follow-up. In the literature, hardly we find that we have such long-term follow-ups. And our 10-year follow-up on CABG patients. Initially, we had nearly 150 in the control and the yoga group, a randomized control trial, and we went on getting the follow-up things. And after 4 years, we had one publication. Then we completed the 10-year follow-up, and we have made publications in this. And what we found, the whole thing, at the end of 10 years, we could gather data on nearly 50 and 60 people, 50 from the control group and 60 from the yoga group, And what we find in the whole encounter, the ejection factor had reduced considerably in the yoga group compared to the control. Similarly, the morbidity and mortality also have significantly reduced in the yoga group compared to the control group, showing clearly the usefulness of yoga as an adjunct to the conventional treatment modalities. That's how our integrative medical system is growing more and more. And we had a wonderful conference organized by IBR in Rishikesh 3 years back, in which we presented many of our works. And the question is, how does yoga help in the whole encounter? Normally, it has been very well known that the walking and the good exercise are going to help in the cardiovascular rehabilitation process. But what characterizes yoga is much more comprehensive and holistic. And according to Swami Vivekananda, there are 4 main streams of yoga: the Gnana Yoga, Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Karma Yoga. Gnana Yoga works with the path of intellect, using the intellect, analyzing the thing, and going deeper and deeper to understand the very basis from where the intellect emerges. Whereas the Bhakti Yoga is the science of emotions, how to gain mastery over the emotions and thereby to go and reach the highest, purest state of consciousness, that is again the Sakshatkara of the highest order. Then we have the Raja Yoga, that is the yoga prescribed by Patanjali, known as the Patanjali Yoga, and it is the path of willpower. So use your willpower to gain mastery over the mind, and that is the modality which Patanjali has given. And the 4th one is the Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is the yoga of action, how to convert all our actions into a yoga. And that is the secret unraveled in the Karma Yoga. These are the 4 streams of yoga that Swami Vivekananda has professed, and not yoga as a mere set of practices of exercises. You can work with the intellect, or work with the emotions, or work with the willpower, or work with the action region. And the ultimate goal of all this is to reach our original state, that is called as Kaivalya by Patanjali. It is called as the Brahma Nirvana in the Vedanta, or the Moksha, and it's our original state called Swarupa by Patanjali. And you see, from this original state that the whole creation has come, and all of us have come. And in the Upanishads, they have brought forth this in a systematic way to move from the pure consciousness, which is beyond space, time, causation, to the creation, which is governed by time, space, and causation. And the first thing that emerges is the Anandamaya Kosha. Then we have the Vijnanamaya Kosha, the Manomaya Kosha, the Pranamaya Kosha, and the physical body called the Annamaya Kosha. So what all we are doing in the treatment of the cardiovascular diseases in our conventional and modern medical way is to deal with the exercises, the dietetic pattern, and other things, all dealing with the human system, the physical body alone. But we do not take care of the higher dimension, the subtler and the causal dimension of our existence. And that is where yoga brings in the new dimension, additional dimension to the conventional approach to deal with the normal cardiovascular ailments. So the first thing Patanjali has talked about is a set of do's and don'ts, yama and niyama. That is the way of life. In Ayurveda, it's called the ahara, vihara, vichara, and vyavahara, achara. That is the ahara, the dietetic aspect of it, which has been talked about in the modern medical system. Then the vichara, the proper understanding and the whole thing, and the vihara, the right of enjoyment in the thing and bringing it into action. These are the dimensions that have been talked about in Ayurveda. So in yoga, this has been contained in the yama and the niyama. Then comes the asanas, that is the yogic postures, which most people recognize yoga as only asanas, yogic postures. And how is the set of asanas different from the physical exercises? The key essence is relaxation. As Patanjali defines, Sthira Sukham Asanam and Prayatna Shaithilya, Ananta Samapatti Bhyam, as it says, and yoga is to relax the whole body. Every asana that you do, you must be able to gain first to the level of stability and then stay longer and longer and relax the whole body and then gain mastery over the mind. That is, do that. That is the set of asana that is done. Then we have the pranayama, very, very powerful thing in which we have control and mastery over the breathing. You slow down the breath. Slowing down of the breath is the one that reduces the metabolic rate and reduces the load on the heart, and the heart gets deep relaxation in the whole encounter through the relaxation process of asana and the slowing down of breath in the whole encounter. Then the third level operation is meditation. Meditation is called dhyana in Patanjali's term, and dhyana is something very, very special. What is dhyana? Dhyana is to stay on a single thought. Tatra pratyaya ekatanata dhyanam, as it defines. Stay in a single thought of your choice and staying there longer and longer and longer and longer. And this process of meditation is the key essence which calms down the mind, silences the mind. Many people always have a confusion that meditation is something like a concentration. And they call concentration and meditation are two opposite things. Because in concentration, you are going to speed up the mind, faster mind, quicker mind, brilliant mind, sharper mind, innovative mind, faster, 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 faster. Why do I say that? Imagine there are two persons. One person is able to read about 10 pages an hour. Another person is able to read 20 pages an hour. Who has got the better thing? Assuming that both of them have the same grasp, a person who has 20 pages is better off. Therefore, in the whole encounter of concentration, the number of thoughts per minute is going to increase, maintaining the awareness and the sharpness and the brilliance and others. So faster mind, the key essence in the concentration, that brings efficiency and other. Whereas in meditation, it is opposite of that. If there are 1,000 thoughts in concentration, you bring it to 500, then 100, then 50, 10, 2, and 1. Tatra pratyaya ekatanata dhyanam. Eka. That is a single thought. The mind should be brought into a single thought. It can be a beautiful flower, it can be your Ishta Devata, or it can be simply feeling of an expansiveness, anything you can choose. And stay in that thought. And that is called as the dhyana. And what characterizes dhyana has been beautifully summarized in the Patanjali. It is a single thought, mind staying in a single thought. And there is slowness that occurs. As the number of thoughts have reduced continuously, there is a slowing down of the thoughts, and corresponding there is slowing down of the breath as well. So the metabolic rate comes down deeply, giving deep rest to the whole system. And when you slow down, the normal tendency is you may go to sleep. So the third factor is no sleep, sir. You must keep awake. Wakefulness is the third dimension. And when you stay there in the single thought, effortlessly, and with the slowness and wakefulness, then slowly you start feeling that you are elated. You feel lighter day by day, as you continue your thing, and the mind starts expanding itself. That is expansiveness. So these are the features of what we call as meditation or dhyana according to Patanjali. Single thought, effortlessness, slowness, wakefulness, and expansiveness. When these features are there, then that state of mind is called meditation. And then we have the next dimension of bringing equanimity in the emotions. And the progress in yoga is to bring equanimity of the different emotions. And normally, we are all tossed up and down in emotional upsurges: anger, greed, jealousy, hatred, infatuation, arrogance, all violent emotions. They're called as the Asuri Sampat. Then on the other side, you have the good qualities like giving up, sharing, and then peace and calmness, compassion, love, forbearance, and forgiveness, all good qualities. And seeing that the emotional upsurges of the Arishad Vargas are reduced and the positive virtues start blossoming. And thereby you gain a balance of the wonderful emotional thing, bringing the emotional stability. Samatvam yoga buchyate, as it is said. And that is at the emotional level. And finally, in the action level, it is to retain that inner calm, inner peace, and doing all the action. Yogastaha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya. As Krishna says, it is the process of calming down the mind and staying in that calmness continuously in all actions. Inner layer of the mind is kept in that deep silence and calmness and peace. And outside layer of the mind, you go on doing any action that you want. This is how the system has been beautifully developed in the Yoga Shastras of Patanjali. So that is the dimension that is brought forth, and it's the way of life. Therefore, yoga works at all these levels: at the physical level, at the prana level, the mind level, the emotional level, the intellectual level. And the objective of yoga is not only to deal with the health, but to raise ourselves from our null level to become great human beings, super divine human being, and reach that divinity itself. That divinity is called moksha or kaivalya by Patanjali. What is that? It is our original state from where we all are born, from where the whole creation has come. And that state is a state of transcendence beyond space, time, causation, and is a state of infinite happiness, infinite bliss, infinite knowledge, infinite power, infinite freedom. That is our original state. Therefore, Swami Vivekananda emphasized that the goal of life is to manifest that divinity in our entire day-to-day life. How is it done? By all these four streams of yoga. Work at all these levels, and by working on that, you purify the entire system. So when we talk about yoga, yoga contains all these four streams, and meditation and dhyana is a small part of the Ashtanga yoga given by Patanjali, called the Raja Yoga or the Patanjali Yoga. Therefore, when we are going to say yoga, then it includes meditation, it includes science of emotion culture, it includes the dimensions of action in relaxation, it includes the relaxation of the body level, it includes control over the diets, and all these things are contained in the yoga. And these are the different techniques: asana, pranayama, mudras, bandhas, kriyas, dhyana, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, sayama. All these are different techniques that are available to us in the Ashtanga Yoga and the Patanjali and other things. Therefore, when we use this total approach, then there's going to be a life of fulfillment, life of deep relaxation, life of equanimity. And that is what we call the yoga as the science of holistic living. And that is what is going to help. And this is what we had adopted and did 10 years of follow-up on CIBG patients, and hundreds and thousands of patients who had come to Arogyadharma have been able to get through the cardiovascular challenges, and they were able to even prevent some of the cardiac surgery. That's extremely useful, and I'm sure the technology aspect of it and the deeper anatomical, physiological, pathophysiological aspects will all be brought forth by our excellent speakers who are going to be here. And I hope that all of you are going to follow the yoga way of life and see that we keep very healthy, happy, and blissful in these difficult days of COVID. And the important dimension is to prevent India becoming the cardiovascular capital of the whole world. Thank you very much, Anjali ji and Indrajit ji, for calling me for this thing. Dhanyavad, namaskar.
Thank you, Guruji, for the words of wisdom. You showed us a path within such a small time, how to transcend from misery to blissfulness. And we thank you for the same. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It is now my pleasure to introduce our panelists for today's webinar. Our first panelist is Dr. Indranil Basure. Dr. Basure is practicing cardiac electrophysiologist. He presently holds the post of staff cardiologist and intervention cardio electrophysiologist, Memphis VA Medical Center. He's also adjunct professor of cardiology and head of integrative cardiology at AIIMS Rishikesh. He has been practicing meditation since the age of 6. He has been initiated in Kriya Yoga tradition by Swami Hariharananda Giri, the disciple of Mahamuni Yukteswar Giri. A practitioner of Advaita Vedanta, Dr. Basure has been practicing his guru's sermon, an ounce of practice equals a ton of theory. Welcome to the webinar, Dr. Basure.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome, sir. Our second panelist today is Professor Nirmal Gupta. Namaskar, Professor Nirmal Gupta.
Namaskar.
Dr. Gupta is a multifaceted personality. He is professor and head of Department of Cardiovascular and Thoracic Surgery at Sanjay Gandhi Postgraduate Institute of Medical Sciences, Lucknow. He has more than 31 years of experience and has worked with renowned physicians and surgeons in India and United Kingdom. Having more than 7,000 open heart surgeries to his credit, he is also member and fellow of several prestigious national and international societies in India and overseas. A chance introduction to meditation in year 2005 opened up a whole new approach to wellness and healing for Dr. Nirmal Gupta. He's presently penning several books on yoga and related practices promoting holistic lifestyle habits. Welcome to this webinar, Dr. Gupta.
Thank you very much.
I now invite Dr. Indranil Basure to put forth his views on today's subject, yoga in prevention and management of cardiovascular disease.
Good morning, everybody in the US. Good evening, everybody in India. It is a pleasure again to be in front of all of you. So today, in the short time, I'll try to explain why each and every one of us, if we live long enough, if we live the lifestyle we are living now, will possibly end up with either a bypass surgery or a stenting or a heart attack, or at least have one of the multiple problems that is commonly seen, like high blood pressure, high blood sugar, stroke, peripheral artery disease, and things like that. So it's important to understand that cardiovascular disease, as you guys know, is the biggest problem in the world now. It is replaced. It occurs twice more common than patients who die out of cancer. So if you take cardiovascular disease and the number of global deaths, it is number one. So what is the reason why this is so?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Basure. Can you please make your presentation full screen? We are only able to see a pane. So go to the slideshow.
Is it full screen now?
So opt for the slideshow.
Yeah, I did slideshow.
So you've minimized it.
Yeah, I opt for the slideshow from beginning, yeah? Can you see it now?
Yes, yes, sir. We can see the whole screen now.
Okay, cool. So if you look at the top 10 causes of death, ischemic heart disease is number one, followed by stroke, which is again a type of ischemic disease. But instead of that, of the heart, it is the brain. So if we look at what we now call the non-communicable diseases, that is diseases which are not caused by infection, and that is the cause of 70% of deaths the world over. Most of the deaths are from coronary artery disease. In fact, twice the number of people die from coronary artery disease than those who die from cancers. So, as I said, if we live the life that most of us are living now, with all these behavioral risks like having an unhealthy diet, we will having physical inactivity, uh, abuse of tobacco or smoking, all of us will end up having coronary artery disease or one of the other problems. But what is the reason for this? Why is it that coronary artery disease is the biggest killer? Unfortunately, we are slowly getting to understand in the last 10 to 15 years that coronary artery disease and our behavior is because of the fact that it is related to our genes. And what do I mean by related to our genes? What I say it's related to our genes means whatever we do, suppose I don't eat properly, suppose I am stressed out, everything converts into what we call inflammation. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit inside the body and leads to heart disease, leads to heart attack, leads to hypertension, leads to diabetes mellitus, leads to stroke. So even your daily existence can lead to coronary artery disease. You might think, oh, what am I hearing? Yes, that's true. Even your daily existence can lead to coronary artery disease or can lead to stroke, can lead to you having uncontrolled diabetes, can lead to you having uncontrolled blood pressure with 3 or 4 medicines. So understand what the stress is. So basically, for our understanding, let's divide it into 2 stress. That is the normal. Suppose I have an exam tomorrow. I'm looking for a raise in my salary. I'm going to take a better job. So that causes stress. And that stress is normal. It's a good stress because what it gets the body prepared for doing things that the body wants to, that you want to achieve. You want to achieve a better lifestyle. You want to achieve a better job. You want to become a better student. You want to stand first in your school, college, university, wherever it is. You want to become a doctor, engineer, accountant, business person, corporate leader. So that's a good stress. But unfortunately, when stress lingers on, despite you not having any immediate reason for stress, that becomes a distress. And that distress causes changes in the brain, causing anxiety and depression, causes changes in the body, causing your heart to become to beat faster, sometimes having dangerous arrhythmias, causes your blood vessels inside the heart to get blocked with fat, and ultimately which causes coronary artery disease. And the similar things happens inside the brain, and you develop what is known as stroke. So, and the worst thing is all this adds to aging. You get older and older and you age. Now, let's understand why this is so. So today you got up in the morning, if you're living alone, you got up, you must have made some tea or coffee for yourself, and you started beginning your day. People who live with their family might have got up, seen their son, their wife, their daughter, their mother, their father. But this has not been so for the last 1 million years that we were on this earth. So when our forefathers used to get up in their cave, the first thing they could be seeing is a saber-toothed tiger waiting to eat him up, or a big mammoth waiting to crush him below his feet, or even a slithering anaconda trying to get into the cave. So he had 2 options. One option is he has to either kill this animal or run and save his life. He must have done that properly, and that is why you and I are the dominant species on this earth. Otherwise, we would have found dinosaurs or other species roaming in the earth, and there would have been no human beings. So this is called the flight or fight response. So a human body, because the civilization is for a few years, which could be 5,000, 10,000, historiological people differ in their opinions, but whether it's 10,000, 15,000, or even 20,000, it doesn't matter, because we spent millions of years staying in caves when we were not humans staying in a living society as we do today. So flight or fight is a living response to save us, to make us the dominant species on Earth. So despite the fact that I'm living in a house, there is no slithering anaconda in my garden or in my bedroom, my behavior pattern of every human being still behaves like that. So when I have a stressor, I behave as if I am being confronted with a saber-toothed tiger or an anaconda. Say, for example, there is pandemic going on now, as all of you know, COVID-19. I don't have COVID-19. I'm staying at home. I'm wearing masks when I'm going out. But still, somewhere in my subconsciousness, I'm scared. Oh, what happens if I have COVID-19? Oh, what happens if I then lose my job? Oh, what happens if my child gets sick? Oh, what happens if my father, who's 80 years old with diabetes, he dies because of catching COVID? So these are the thoughts that come into your mind. And there's nothing wrong in these thoughts coming. But the problem is how the body processes that stuff. The body should process these thoughts by saying, okay, this is a problem, you might have it, take adequate precautions, and then forget about it. If it happens, we'll take care of it. But unfortunately, 90% of us, that's not what happens. We go on thinking inside us, not consciously, subconsciously, and there is release of dangerous chemicals inside our body called glucocorticoids. There's release of dangerous chemical called norepinephrine and epinephrine. This makes the heart thick and less pliable to do the work that it's doing. It changes our brain and creates nerve circuits inside our brain that makes us anxious prone, that makes us depressed, that makes us to have traumatic stress disorders, and makes us to have panic attack. So each and every part of our body, now we know, even in our genes, are affected, which causes the problem of arterial disease or inflammation. Why? This stress that you have, body has a mechanism to convert this stress in your brain into inflammation all over the body. Now, as I told you, if you have eustress, which I said is normal, which is good, because you needed to have you need to be stressed out like this if an anaconda is really entering your cave. Otherwise, you will die if you are not active immediately. But you don't need to have this inflammation going on every day in your body if you're just scared about COVID, despite the fact that you're taking all precautions. But when you do so, the body feels that you're in danger despite you not being in danger. What does the body do? It sends signal that you're in danger and it causes inflammation. And what does the inflammation do? It blocks the arteries to your heart, causing heart attacks. It blocks the arteries to your brain, causing stroke. It blocks the arteries to your kidneys, causing kidney failure. So you have multi-organ damage. And the funny part is that you're so much worried about COVID, but what you don't understand is when you're worried, your actual capacity to fight COVID and avoid COVID in the first place is decreased. So both your innate immunity is decreased and your adaptive immunity is decreased. So instead of thinking, you actually get less efficient in attacking COVID back. So what happens is it's a contra to what you expect to have happens when you're actually stressed out. I don't want to go into a lot of details, but I just want to I want to spend most of the time trying to explain actually what happens and what research has shown, so that people, I know there are people here, and I've got hundreds of mails and texts about people having hypertension, diabetes, and what they need to do. So in short, this sort of load, which we call the allostatic load of stress that we have for everything, and unfortunately, even some nice things can sometimes cause this stress. But I'll give you a very simple example. I have a neighbor who has a nice car, and I say, oh, I have a good job. Why can't I have a better car than him? How come he's more rich? Or I have a colleague who gets a promotion and I don't get it. I say, oh, how come he gets a promotion I don't get? What we don't understand is some of these are also converted by the body to be stressors. And whenever it is converted into stressors, it creates the same reaction, unfortunately. So the saddest part is, and the day we understand that, we will actually become a yogi, is whatever your negative thoughts are, the final attack on the body remains similar. So it doesn't matter whether you're facing a saber-toothed tiger, which no more exists, or a big anaconda that can eat you up, or just the fact that your neighbor is more dumb than you, but he has got a promotion faster than you in your job, or he has got a Mercedes and you don't have. They seem very simple and frivolous. It doesn't make any difference. But that's in your conscious mind. But in your subconscious mind, when you are not in the having a yogic lifestyle, this itself can pose as stressors, doing all these things, increasing your blood pressure, making your insulin sensitivity lower through multiple things, which I'll not go into the details today. But I'd like to spend some time on what it does to the actual body and how we can prevent it. So hypertension, as you know, is a big problem. There are 7.3 million deaths in 2017. We don't have the record now, but given the rise, we believe there are over 10 million deaths of hypertension. And out of every 4 people in the US and India, 1 will have hypertension as a disease. It's in fact, when I was in medical school some 10, 15 years back, we were taught hypertension was more common in the older population. But today I have friends who are just 20s and they have been diagnosed with hypertension. So what does yoga do? Yoga has been shown because it reduces this inflammation that I just talked about, because it prevents the changes in the brain that causes anxiety and depression. Actually, practice of yoga for 4 to 5 weeks has clearly shown that you can actually change the brain circuits to make you always in being happy instead of being depressed. Your depression can change, your anxiety can change, your stress attack can change. And that's why in yoga literature, they don't even talk about happiness. They talk about bliss, which is the Sanskrit word for use is ananda. And there is actually release of a chemical called anandamide, which is like an endorphin, one of the first endorphin discovered by Israeli scientists. And when they discovered it and they found a nano amount of it, an extremely small amount of it, which is released inside the brain, can make you super happy. So they said this exactly is what the yogis talk about for the last 10,000 years. So let's name it anandamide. Amide means a protein molecule. So it's a protein released by the brain itself and seen in people who have been meditators for a long time that makes you stay in bliss, which yoga always talks about. So when you have this, when you don't have anxiety, the pressures in your blood comes down for different reasons. I don't want to go into all the details. The inflammation comes down. So there has been studies in people. There are a couple of studies. One is when you practice meditation, which is part and parcel of yoga, as you know, there is decrease in both diastolic as well as systolic blood pressure. And the mortality decrease has also been seen in some patients, though the number is very small and there's some controversy over it. However, what has been clearly seen is people who have been on 4 or 5 drugs, people who started having hypertension when they're in their 20s and 30s, those people can actually reduce the number of drugs they're in. The second important thing that I wanted to tell you is hypertension can unfortunately cause permanent changes in your heart, making it thick. So what do you mean by making it thick? The muscle increases, so the capacity of the heart to take in blood decreases. So what will happen when the capacity of the blood to take in blood decreases? You will have less blood inside the heart. So less blood is purified coming into the heart. So less purified blood goes to your brain, to your kidneys. And remember, your brain doesn't eat the nice food that you're eating. The only thing that your brain eats is glucose. So when you don't get enough glucose, you can have memory problems and other complications. Your kidneys can get damaged in the long run. That's why people with hypertension, diabetes have damaged kidneys, have damaged brain. They have memory losses and other things. So that's one part of it. The second important thing to understand is diabetes mellitus, which is one of the biggest problems. As you know, India is an epidemic of diabetes mellitus. Diabetes mellitus is extremely common in US. All the Western economies, diabetes mellitus is a big epidemic. In a couple of years back, 2017, there was around 2 million deaths with diabetes mellitus. Now, this is an important thing because today in India, today in America, we find 1 out of 4 people having diabetes mellitus, and quite a percent of them, in fact, majority of them have been found to be poorly controlled. So poorly controlled diabetes mellitus, despite being on insulin, despite being on multiple drugs. So what is the problem? The problem is whether you take insulin, whether you take medicine, they help bringing down your sugars, but unfortunately they really don't help other than one or two drugs to change the actual problem that is causing diabetes. So as you know, as everybody who takes insulin knows, that insulin has its own problem. You find there is more, you gain weight, blood control becomes poorer, and you need more insulin as the day passes. But what yoga does is yoga controls the whole things from its root. So in a study where they took more than 4,000 patients, multi-center study, they actually showed that your A1C values, which indicates diabetes mellitus, is reduced by almost 1% or more in just 4 to 6 weeks of practice of yoga. And that to even newcomers, people who have never ever practiced yoga in their life. Just 4 to 6 weeks, decreased their insulin intake, decrease the insulin resistance, decrease their body mass index, decrease the waist circumference, also brought down the dangerous lipids that causes heart attack, stroke, and peripheral artery disease. So it's like panacea. The difference is this: modern medicine helps to control, and modern medicine played a great role in that. You should be following the doctor and having modern medicine. But if you want to root out the disease, if you want to decrease the medicine, if you want to get rid of the medicine forever, what you need to do is a yogic lifestyle, which means regular practice of yoga, regular practice of meditation, having a low-fat vegetarian diet. And remember, to reduce stress, stress comes with everything. So it's not like, oh, I go to gym between 4 to 5 in the evening. This is not going to a gym. Yoga, unlike a gym, changes each and every part of your body. People doing transcendental meditation, they have shown that your blood pressure can stay low. You can be off medication with practice of meditation. And there have been multiple studies on this. If you're a cigarette smoker, it can help you get off cigarette smoking with it. If you're in different other type of psychological stress, like for example, pandemic, if you're a human being, you have to be in stress. But the question is, as Buddha said, pain is mandatory. So if you're born on earth, if you have a normal life, if you're a normal human being, at least like me or everybody else, you will have pain. But suffering is optional. If you take a yogic lifestyle, this pain or this things like COVID and all that things, psychological stress that is normal in the society, economic downturn, loss of jobs, problems in the family, problems in the workplace, all this is part of normal life. But they are not supposed to cause you to have severe disease. They do cause severe disease unless you have the capacity to control yourself and make sure that these problems don't affect you from the core. Do I have some more time, Anjali, or am I done?
Just another 2-3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So that's very important to understand. The concepts of yoga is that it is like a protected, it is like a super balloon under which you are protected. So if I am staying on earth, if I have to have a job, my job may not be the most best thing in my life. I can't get another job tomorrow. I can't leave my job and sit at home. I have to feed my family. So you have to understand that stress, psychological stress will be there if we have to live on earth. Even gods on earth had stress. So the problem is not the stress. The problem is how you manage it. And if you manage it by having a yogic lifestyle, you can control it. You can control your hypertension. You can control your blood sugar. You can control your cholesterol. As you know, we have cholesterol. We have great medicines for cholesterol, but they have their own side effects. And but tons of studies have shown if you regularly practice yoga, there have been meta-analysis where your LDL-C, which is the most dangerous type of cholesterol that is actually directly responsible for heart attack, stroke, they can be appropriately controlled. Second of all, you have to also understand, and Dr. Gupta will talk more, that today, if I do a stenting to you and open up your artery, or I do a bypass surgery, Dr. Gupta is one of the top cardiac surgeons in India. None of us are actually curing you forever. We are just bringing you symptomatic relief. And if you continue to do all the bad things you are doing now, you will turn back again and you'll have another attack and again another bypass, another stent. And remember, every time you have more and more, your chance of dying from the surgery also increases, your risk factor increases. So the answer is not having a stent or a bypass surgery. The answer is, if you had a bypass surgery, how to make sure you never ever have it again. If you had a stenting, how to make sure you'll never ever have it again. And not only that, these leads to other dangerous diseases like heart failure. There are 22 million heart failure patients. They can't walk from their bed to the bathroom, which is the next room. They have so much breathlessness. And the cause is coronary artery disease or other causes. One particular cause for everything you have to understand is what we call inflammation or oxidative stress. So what is this? The inflammation that I talked about when you have stress causes release of certain dangerous chemicals called interleukin-6, C-reactive protein, TNF-alpha. I don't want to name all of them, but it has been found that these dangerous chemicals are in fact also released in COVID-19. And actually it is the interleukin-6 which actually kills people in COVID-19 more than the virus itself. So this interleukin-6 causes inflammation all over the body, resulting in severe coronary artery disease and severe heart attack. Same thing happens with COVID also. When you have COVID, if you are a practitioner of yoga, your chance of getting COVID actually decreases. And now we have proof. Less than 1 month back, they did an excellent study in Germany where they showed they took 100 patients. 78% of them had very mild yoga, very mild COVID. It was so mild that some of these patients went on doing skiing. They did other active sports like playing football. So they had actually no problem. Their blood was just positive for COVID. But when they did MRI in this patient in more than 2 months after that, and remember one more thing, 60 out of this 70% of the people never ever went to a hospital. They stayed at home, they got over with COVID, they even forgot that they had COVID. Even these people, 67% of them, after 2 months when they did MRI of their heart, they found heart problems. What does that mean? That means this interleukin-6 and all is so dangerous that even if you have mild COVID, not even needing any hospitalization, it can still damage your heart. So imagine if you are stressed out, if you are having problem in your job and that is affecting your body, if you're having problems somewhere else and that is affecting your body, if you're having an abnormal diet, if you're not doing regular exercises, if you're not practicing pranayama or meditation, imagine the death and destruction that interleukin-6 can cause. And there has been tons of studies in cancer patients who are severely sick, who have a very high level of interleukin-6. Just 4 weeks of yoga brings down your interleukin-6. Just 4 weeks. 4 weeks of yoga brings down TNF-alpha, one of the most dangerous chemicals known to mankind that can liquefy your bone, damage your brain, damage your kidneys, damage your heart. This can be brought down. And these are actual studies that I'm talking about done in some of the world's topmost cancer institute like MD Anderson, where they taught people 4 to 6 weeks of yoga and their interleukin-6, interleukin-18, CRP, and a bunch of other dangerous chemicals which are all caused by diabetes, hypertension, coronary artery disease, and metabolic syndrome, can be appropriately controlled with yoga. So I'll stop for today and thank you. One last thing, as I said, my guru would always used to say, 1 ton of theory equals 1 ounce of practice. So it doesn't matter how much you hear, how much you read, none of them is going to help you. The only thing to help you is you got to start from today, practice yoga for 5 to 10 minutes, not more than that, 4 or 5 out of 7 days a week. Make sure you sit some for breathing, like deep breathing, like pranayama. Try to meditate a little. That will play a much bigger role than reading every book in the library to save you from having heart disease or even cancers. Now there's actually even proof that not only can you prevent spread of cancer, but you might also help yourself to get cancer in the first place. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, it was a pleasure talking to you. take care and stay safe in this epidemic.
Thank you, Dr. Basure, for letting us know how stress can actually affect all systems in our body, and how yoga can help not just in cardiovascular disease, but other non-communicable diseases as well. Before we proceed to the next leg of our program, I'd like to put a gentle reminder to our viewers that Dr. Basure and Dr. Nirmal Gupta will be taking questions from the viewers towards the end of the program. So please feel free to connect with us on the email and the WhatsApp number that is mentioned on the screen. Now, before I invite Professor Nirmal Gupta to put forward his views, let me invite Dr. Dilip Sarkar to the program. Let me welcome him. He's joined us a little later. Namaskar, Dr. Sarkar. Dr. Sarkar will be sharing his experiences and his journey, wonderful journey into the yogic way of lifestyle little later. But I thought this was the right moment to welcome Dr. Sarkar to this webinar. So now I request Professor Nirmal Gupta to put forth his views on today's subject.
Namaskar. How very fortunate I am and blessed to be on this panel today, where Guruji, Dr. Ray, and Dr. Sarkar have invited me to be with you all. आगे बढ़ने से पहले सबसे पहले मैं ओम का जाप करते हुए सुप्रीम कॉन्शियसनेस, देवों के देव, प्रथम देव श्री गणेश, अपने गुरुजी और डॉक्टर हेगड़े, मेरे माता पिता, और वो सब जिन्होंने मुझ में ज्ञान का प्रकाश या तो दिया या जलाया, उनको मैं नमन करता हूं, उनका आवाहन करता हूं। इस सदी के सबसे महान वैज्ञानिकों में से एक डॉक्टर अल्बर्ट आइंस्टाइन ने करीब आज से 60 साल पहले सितंबर 1940 में एक पेपर लिखा था, साइंस, फिलॉसफी एंड रिलीजन, और उसमें उन्होंने एक बड़ी प्यारी सी बात कही, और वो थी कि साइंस विदाउट रिलीजन इज लेम एंड रिलीजन विदाउट साइंस इज ब्लाइंड। डॉक्टर रे ने और परम आदरणीय गुरुजी ने बहुत सारी बातें योगा के संबंध में बताई और बीमारी के संबंध में भी बताई, तो इसलिए मैं ज़्यादा डिटेल में नहीं जाऊंगा, लेकिन मैं छोटी सी चीज़ें आपको उसमें शेयर करना चाहता हूं। वो ये कि द इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ हेल्थ मैट्रिक्स एंड इवेल्युएशन, विच इज़ वन ऑफ द बिल गेट्स एंड मेलिंडा फाउंडेशंस आर्म बेस्ड आउट इन वॉशिंगटन, इन्होंने एक डेटा एनालिटिक्स के द्वारा ये सिद्ध किया कि पिछले 30 सालों में हमारे दुनिया में कार्डियोवैस्कुलर डिजीज, जो कि पहले भी बहुत ज़्यादा थी, लेकिन उनके आगे बढ़ने की दर लगभग 50% से ज़्यादा है। और बड़े मजे की बात यह है कि रेस्पिरेटरी इन्फेक्शन, ट्यूबरकुलोसिस, एंट्रिक इन्फेक्शंस, मैटरनल और नियोनेटल मोर्टेलिटी कम होते हुए भी ये बीमारियां बहुत तेजी से आगे बढ़ रही हैं। इनको हम कंबाइंड फॉर्म में टॉप 10 किलर्स के नाम से जानते हैं, और बड़ा अजीब नहीं लगना चाहिए, त्रेता युग में रावण के भी 10 सर हुआ करते थे, और रावण कितना खतरनाक राक्षस था ये हम सभी जानते हैं। तो मेरा मन कहता है कि मैं इन 10 बीमारियों को रावण का ही नाम क्यों ना दूं। ये कलयुग की रावण के रूप में ये 10 बीमारियां हमारे अस्तित्व के ऊपर एक बहुत बड़ा खतरा बनी हुई हैं। और त्रेता में भगवान श्री राम, जो कि योगी थे, उन्होंने रावण का वध किया था। मैं परमपिता से एक बार फिर से आह्वान करता हूं कि वे स्वयं ना आए तो कम से कम हमारे दुनिया में योग को इतना बढ़ा दें कि हम उससे इस
दानव को, रावण को और 10 बीमारियों को कम से कम अपने बीच से दूर कर सकें। बड़े मजे की बात यह है कि रावण के भी एक सर था जो कि उसके सारे 9 सरों को कंट्रोल करता था, और हमारे इन 10 सर बीमारियों में दिल की बीमारी सबसे ज्यादा है। एक छोटा सा कंफ्यूजन जो कि आम जनता में है वो ये है कि ये योगा जो हम बहुत यूज करते हैं टर्म, आखिर इसका मतलब क्या है? ये मतलब थोड़ा सा अपभ्रंश हो गया है पिछले 40 सालों में। उसका कारण ये है कि योगा हालांकि हमारे देश में पैदा हुआ और यहां से फिर वो विदेशों में गया, खासतौर पे अमेरिका में, और जैसे कि बाकी सारी चीजों के साथ होता है कि हम लोग आयातित चीजों को ज्यादा ही महत्व देते हैं, तो भारत में भी योगा के बारे में जानकारी और उसका ज्यादा प्रभाव तभी हुआ जब वो अमेरिका से दोबारा से लौट कर आया। और अनफॉर्चुनेट बात ये रही कि वेस्ट में भी उसको कसरत आसन, या मैं कभी कभी कहता हूँ स्ट्रेच आसन, यानी फिजिकल पार्ट ऑफ द योगा को ज्यादा महत्व दिया गया योगा स्टूडियोज में, क्योंकि वो एक बिजनेस का एक मॉडल बन गया। हालांकि ऐसा है नहीं, जैसा कि गुरुजी ने आपको समझाया कि अष्टांग योग और योग के भी 4 तरह के योग हैं, है ना, ज्ञान योग, ध्यान योग, कर्म योग आदि आदि। अब आते हैं हम बीमारी पे। बीमारी के 2 प्रमुख अंग होते हैं, एक होता है सिम्टम जो कि लक्षण कहलाता है, और दूसरा होता है बीमारी अपने आप में। ये बीमारी और लक्षण के बीच में 2 चीजें और आती हैं, और वो है एक्यूट और क्रॉनिक। एक्यूट वो कि जो कि अचानक से बड़ी तेजी से आपको अफेक्ट करती हैं, और क्रॉनिक वो जो धीरे धीरे, जैसे कि डायबिटीज है, जैसा कि डॉक्टर रे ने बताया, डायबिटीज, डिप्रेशन, कॉर्नरी आर्टरी डिजीज, हाइपरलिपिडीमिया, ये सब चीजें क्रॉनिक हैं। ये एक दिन में पैदा नहीं होती, ये हमारी लाइफस्टाइल से सालों साल में और हमारे जीन के ऊपर पड़ने वाले प्रभावों से ये सालों साल में हमारे अंदर पैदा होती हैं। अच्छी बात यह है कि मॉडर्न मेडिसिन जो है और मॉडर्न मेडिसिन का जो ट्रीटमेंट है, ये एक्यूट कंडीशंस के लिए बहुत मुफीद है और बहुत अच्छे से इसका इलाज करता है। लेकिन जब ये बात क्रॉनिक कंडीशंस पे आती है, यानी कि डिजीज और उसके कारणों के ऊपर आती है, तो ये रिडक्शनिस्ट मेथोडोलॉजी बहुत बुरी तरह से मुंह के बल गिरती है। ये रिडक्शनिस्ट मेथोडोलॉजी क्या है, इसके बारे में थोड़ा सा जानकारी दे दूं। इट इज अ फॉर्म ऑफ डिटर्मिनिज्म, एंड इसका मतलब ये होता है कि जैसे कि एक मशीन है, और मशीन के जब बारे में यदि हमें जानकारी लेनी है तो हमें मशीन के पुर्जे पुर्जे को अलग करना होगा, और उसके हर पुर्जे के गुण को और धर्म को जान के हम उस पूरी मशीन के नेचर को, उसके गुण को, उसके धर्म को, उसके कार्य को समझ सकते हैं। ये जानकारी सबसे पहले रेने डेकार्ट एक फिलोसोफर थे जो कि मैथमेटिशियन और साइंटिस्ट भी थे 16th सेंचुरी में फ्रांस में, उन्होंने दी थी। ये इसीलिए रेने डेकार्ट की रिडक्शनिस्ट थ्योरी कहलाती है। अनफॉर्चुनेटली ये थ्योरी एक अजीब चीज के ऊपर तो बड़े अच्छे से लागू होती है, लेकिन जब ये चीज एक सजीव चीज के लिए लागू होती है तो आप सभी ने एक कहानी सुनी होगी जो जिसका कि उल्लेख चांदोग्य उपनिषद में आता है। एक हाथी को 6 अंधे अलग अलग तरीके से महसूस करते हैं और उसकी सही प्रकृति को कभी नहीं जान पाते, क्योंकि वे जिस अंग को हाथी के छी रहे हैं वो उनको केवल उसी अंग के बारे में जानकारी देता है और उसी के बारे में भ्रम पैदा करता है। और यही सबसे बड़ा कारण है कि हमारा जो मॉडर्न मेडिसिन ट्रीटमेंट है वो बीमारी के एक्यूट प्रभावों को, तो जो कि एक फिजिकल एंटिटी होती है अक्सर, उसको तो प्रभाव को अच्छे से ठीक करने में काबिल होता है, लेकिन बीमारी के कारण और उसके उत्पन्न होने के पीछे जो रहस्य है उसके पीछे कभी नहीं जा पाता। वैदिक विजडम जो है, इट डिपेंड्स ऑन होलिज्म, वो पूरी चीज को एक संपूर्ण तरीके से लेती है, जैसा कि गुरुजी ने भी बताया। और यही कारण है कि योग से जो कि वेदों से भी पहले उत्पन्न हुआ है। कहा जाता है कि हिरण्यगर्भ से, जिसका कि उल्लेख ऋग्वेद और श्रीमद् भागवत गीता में श्री कृष्ण भगवान ने भी किया है, वो एक इतनी बड़ी साइंस है जिसको कि हम आज यदि क्वांटम फिजिक्स को पढ़ें या क्वांटम थ्योरी ऑफ एंटेंगलमेंट को समझें, तो हमें समझ में आता है कि ये हर बीमारी के पीछे कहीं ना कहीं कारण, जैसे डॉक्टर रे ने बताया, माइंड में छिपा हुआ है। एंड व्हाट इज माइंड? माइंड इज अ वाइब्रेशन। एंड व्हाट आर वी? वी आर नॉट मटेरियल, वी आर जस्ट सिंपली अ वाइब्रेशन। ये हमारे वेदों में और वेदों से पहले भी हिरण्यगर्भ से पैदा होने वाली जो कि हमारे ऋषियों ने जो ज्ञान प्राप्त किया उसके अंदर अच्छी तरह से वर्णित है। तो हमने ये साबित कर लिया कि साइंस विदाउट रिलीजन इज लेम एंड रिलीजन विदाउट साइंस इज ब्लाइंड। एंड रेने डेकार्ट अपने आप में जहां तक सजीव बीमारियों के बारे में कहा जाए तो गलत हैं, और आइंस्टाइन का वो उल्लेख जो उन्होंने 1940 में अपने एक लेख में दिया था वह सही है। अब योगा को हार्ट एलिमेंट्स और बीमारियों के कंटेक्स्ट में यदि हम देखना चाहें कि वो कैसे इलाज और इफेक्टिव मैनेजमेंट की स्ट्रैटेजी के रूप में हमारी और मानव जाति की मदद कर सकता है, तो पहले हमें यह जानना होगा कि योगा आखिर है क्या भला। योगा इज नॉट merely a physical activity, it is an effective stress management strategy, जैसा कि डॉक्टर रे ने भी समझाया आपको। ये अपना काम करता कैसे है योगा? एक्चुअली इट रिवर्सेस द रिस्क फैक्टर्स। तो जो बीमारी के पीछे जो कारण हैं, जो रिस्क फैक्टर हैं, जिन्होंने की कंट्रीब्यूट किया है बीमारी को पैदा होने में इन द फर्स्ट प्लेस, उनको ये दूर करता है। और इसके बाद आपकी जो नॉर्मल एनाटॉमी और फिजियोलॉजी है जो कि आपके शरीर में है, वो उसको रेस्टोर करता है और आगे आने वाले समय के लिए, हमेशा के लिए इन द बेस्ट फॉर्म प्रिजर्व करता है। लेकिन मॉडर्न कार्डियक रिहैबिलिटेशन क्या करती है? मॉडर्न कार्डियक रिहैबिलिटेशन के 5 फेज होते हैं। फेज 0, 1, 2, 3 एंड 4, जिसमें कि प्राइमरी प्रिवेंशन, उसके बारे में हम अभी बात करेंगे आगे। लेकिन फेज 1 और 2, जिसमें कि इन हॉस्पिटल ट्रीटमेंट और डिस्चार्ज के बारे में बात करते हैं, ट्रीटमेंट और रिकवरी, तो इसके लिए हमारी मॉडर्न मेडिसिन बहुत ही उपयोगी है, बहुत ही मदद करने वाली है, और सही मायने में देखें तो मानव जगत के दर्द के बहुत सारे कारणों को वो दूर करने में सक्षम है। लेकिन जब बात कार्डियक रिहैबिलिटेशन के अंदर सारे अवयवों की आती है, सारे कंपोनेंट्स की आती है, तो उसके अंदर जो 5 कंपोनेंट्स हैं, जैसे कि रेगुलर एक्सरसाइज, हार्ट हेल्दी डाइट, स्ट्रेस रिडक्शन, मेडिकल थेरेपी, स्मोकिंग और शराब का उपयोग कम करना, ये सब 5 कंपोनेंट मिला के जो रिहैबिलिटेशन प्रोग्राम हम मॉडर्न मेडिसिन में चलाते हैं, उसमें कुछ कमियां रह जाती हैं। और वो कमियां जो हैं वो हमारे वैदिक योगा और मेडिटेशन मेथड्स में वो डील की गई हैं। और यही कारण है कि प्राइमरी प्रिवेंशन, सेकेंडरी प्रिवेंशन और मेंटेनेंस ऑफ परफेक्ट हेल्थ स्टेटस ऑफ एन इंडिविजुअल, वो केवल और केवल योगा और मेडिटेशन के द्वारा ही संभव है, जैसा कि डॉक्टर रे और परम आदरणीय गुरु जी ने भी आपको समझाया। अब जरा थोड़ी सी नजर डालते हैं कि हमारे मॉडर्न कार्डियक रिहैबिलिटेशन ट्रीटमेंट स्ट्रैटेजी से आखिर हम पाते क्या हैं, हमें क्या फायदे होते हैं और हम क्या उन फायदों को कैसे गिन सकते हैं। तो ये एक पेपर है जिसमें कि ये बताया गया था कि कार्डियक रिहैबिलिटेशन का जो स्ट्रैटेजी है, उसमें 5 साल के पार्टिसिपेशन के बाद ये पाया गया कि ये 25% हार्ट अटैक के दोबारा होने के कारण को दूर कर देता है, मरने की दर को 20 से 30% कम कर देता है, और यदि 3 साल तक यदि सारे पार्टिसिपेंट पूरी तरह से इसमें पार्टिसिपेट करें अच्छे से, ईमानदारी से, तो लगभग 95% लोगों को फायदा होता है। लेकिन यदि वो उसको उपयोग में ना लाएं तो केवल 64% लोगों को ही फायदा होता है। मतलब देखा जाए तो ये जो फायदे का जो क्वांटम है वो इतना कम है कि ये लगता नहीं कि ये एक स्ट्रैटेजी हमारे फायदे के लिए बनी है या दिखावे के लिए बनी है। इसमें दोष मेडिसिन का नहीं है, इसमें दोष बीमारी का भी नहीं है, दोष इसमें यह है कि कहीं हमें तीर चलाना है और तीर कौन सा चलाना है और किस पर चलाना है, वहां गलती हो रही है। क्योंकि एक्यूट फेज के अंदर मॉडर्न मेडिसिन इज फाइन। जैसे आपके यदि चोट लग जाती है, आपको हार्ट अटैक हो जाता है, तो मॉडर्न मेडिसिन कैन प्रोवाइड यू इंस्टेंट रिलीफ एंड कैन सेव योर लाइफ, बट बीमारी को दूर नहीं करता। जैसा डॉक्टर रे ने बताया कि आप कितना ही हार्ट अटैक से बच लें, स्टेंट लगवा लें, मुझसे सर्जरी करवा लें, लेकिन अल्टीमेटली बीमारी अपनी जगह पर है और वो बीमारी दोबारा से आप पर अटैक करेगी समय रहते। तो प्रॉब्लम ये आती है, और यही कारण है कि हम, खास तौर पे मैंने अपने जीवन में पाया, और जब मेरे को ज्ञान मिला या मेरे को मेरी आंखें खुली 2005 में, आज से 15-16 साल पहले, तब मुझे समझ में आया कि मैं जो हजारों ऑपरेशन कर रहा हूं और घंटों दिन रात काम करके भी मरीजों की संख्या कम नहीं कर पाया, उनके दर्द को कम ना कर पाया। तो आखिर हमें क्या करना चाहिए? व्हाट इज रियल ट्रू कार्डियक रिहैबिलिटेशन? हमारा रियल कार्डियक रिहैबिलिटेशन प्रोग्राम वो होगा जो सारे फैक्टर्स को, सारे रिस्क फैक्टर्स को, जो कि बीमारी की प्राइमरी डिजीज को पैदा करने के लिए अल्टीमेटली जिम्मेदार हैं, कल्प्रिट हैं, उनको हम वहां से जड़ से उखाड़ सकें। और होल बॉडी यानी पूरे शरीर के अंदर मन भी आता है, तो उसको हम फिर से एक बार स्वस्थ रूप में स्थापित कर सकें। और वहां फेज 4 शुरू होती है, और उसका जो गुरुजी ने आपको अष्टांग योग के बारे में बताया, महर्षि पतंजलि के बारे में बताया, जिन्होंने कि 196 सूत्र अपने पतंजलि योग सूत्र में लिखे हैं, और उसका सबसे महत्वपूर्ण जो सूत्र है योगश चत वित्री निरोध, वो मैंने यहाँ लिखा हुआ है। तो इसके अंदर मिलता है, और यही एक ऐसा द्वार है, यही एक ऐसा तीर है जो हम लोगों को इस बीमारी के रावण के ऊपर चलाना होगा। अब बात आती है योगासन की। तो व्हाट इज योगासन? योगासन खास तौर पे जिनको कि हार्ट अटैक हो चुका है या जिनका ऑपरेशन हो चुका है, उनके लिए आसन केवल आसन नहीं है। आसन वो होता है जिसमें कि आपके शरीर पर कोई बहुत ज्यादा दबाव ना पड़े। इट शुड नॉट बी ए मसल स्ट्रेनिंग एक्सरसाइज. It should preferably be a stable posture with pleasant harmony and body consciousness with physiological in nature. डॉक्टर रे बेचारे, उनके पास समय कम मिला, अंजलि जी ने हमको 2-3 मिनट का समय दिया, और उसकी वजह से वो हार्ट रेट वेरिएबिलिटी जैसे इंपॉर्टेंट सब्जेक्ट को बोलने से वंचित रहे। तो मैं इसको टच कर लेता हूँ, बाकी मैंने स्लाइड अपनी मिटा दी है क्योंकि समय कम है। तो हार्ट रेट वेरिएबिलिटी एक बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट इंडेक्स आपकी हार्ट हेल्थ को पता करने का। और वो क्या है? आप सभी जानते हैं कि हार्ट जो है वो ऑटोनॉमिक नर्वस सिस्टम से कंट्रोल होता है। हार्ट, हर वो चीज जिसपे कि हम अपना कंट्रोल नहीं कर सकते, वो ऑटोनॉमिक नर्वस सिस्टम से कंट्रोल होता है। सेंसरी और मोटर सिस्टम जो है वो हमारे कंट्रोल में होते हैं, ठीक है। लेकिन ये बात हमारे ऋषियों को आज से, जो मेरी जानकारी है, लगभग 22,000 साल पहले वेद और उपनिषद लिखे गए थे। मैं उनकी बात नहीं करता हूं, जो वेस्टर्न इंडोलॉजिस्ट ने जो टाइमलाइन निकाली है, मेरे हिसाब से ये लगभग 22,000 साल पहले लिखे गए थे। तो उस समय के ऋषियों को ये जानकारी थी कि जो ऑटोनॉमिक नर्वस सिस्टम जो हमने 20th सेंचुरी के शुरुआत में पाया है, पता किया है, वो उनको मालूम था। और उसको हम चक्र, नाड़ी, इदा, पिंगला और सुषुम्ना के नाम से हमारे वेदों में और उपनिषदों में जानते हैं, और जिसका कि बहुत बड़ा और बहुत ही सार्थक वर्णन महर्षि पतंजलि ने अपने योग सूत्र में किया है। हार्ट रेट वेरिएबिलिटी के बारे में बता दूं कि जैसे कि हार्ट हमारा 1 मिनट में लगभग 60 से 70 बार धड़कता है, तो 2 बीट्स के बीच में जो समय अंतराल होता है, ये हमारी एक्टिविटीज के हिसाब से बदलता रहता है। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, यदि हम दौड़ रहे हैं तो हमारा हार्ट हो सकता है 120 की गति पे चले। तो यदि 120 की गति पे चलेगा तो जो 2 हार्ट बीट के बीच में जो समय है वो आधा रह जाएगा। और यही वेरिएबिलिटी इस बात का मेजर है कि हम कितने स्वस्थ हैं। हम जितने ज्यादा स्वस्थ होंगे, हार्ट रेट वेरिएबिलिटी उतनी ही अधिक होगी। जैसे जैसे हम उम्र में बढ़ते जाते हैं और या बीमार पड़ने लगते हैं या हमारे अस्वस्थ होने लगते हैं, तब ये हार्ट रेट वेरिएबिलिटी कम होने लगती है। हमारा हार्ट इस बात के लिए एडजस्ट नहीं कर पाता कि आखिर उस पर कौन सा स्ट्रेस पड़ रहा है, और वो अपने को पंप नहीं कर पाता। अब योगा इन जनरल हार्ट के ऊपर क्या प्रभाव डालते हैं उसके बारे में मैं आपको थोड़ी सी जानकारी देता हूं। योगासन, प्राणायाम और ध्यान, इसके बारे में बड़ी चर्चा हो चुकी है, लेकिन इसके ऊपर कुछ अच्छे पेपर्स भी हैं। और ये एक पेपर है डॉक्टर शर्मा और हैदर साहब का, जो कि 2012 में छपा था, और इसमें उन्होंने बताया है कि योगासन और प्राणायाम और ध्यान हार्ट के हाइपरटेंशन के लिए बहुत ही उपयोगी एक यंत्र है। इसी तरह से प्राणायाम और योगासन दोनों मिला के एट्रियल फिब्रिलेशन, एंजाइटी, डिप्रेशन और क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ को बहुत अच्छा करते हैं। ये 2013 का एक पेपर है। पेपर्स तो बहुत ज्यादा हैं, लेकिन जो मेरे को लगा कि इसके अंदर इफेक्टिवली प्रूव करने के नजदीक तक पहुंच गए हैं उसके ऑथर्स, वो मैंने यहाँ पर आपके लिए लाया हूँ। इसी तरह से कार्डियो रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टम और पल्मोनरी फंक्शन के अंदर प्राणायाम का महत्व बहुत ज्यादा है। गुरुजी इस बात पर बहुत ज्यादा ध्यान देते हैं। उन्होंने मेरे को भी प्राणायाम करने के लिए सलाह दी थी। ब्लड प्रेशर और हार्ट रेट के ऊपर बहुत अच्छा काम हुआ है डॉक्टर परमानिक के द्वारा। इसी तरह से हेल्थ लिपिड प्रोफाइल और लेफ्ट वेंट्रिकल की जो पंपिंग करने की जो क्षमता है, और साइकोलॉजिकल स्टेट के ऊपर डॉक्टर रघुराम का एक बहुत ही शानदार पेपर है, जिसका कि यहाँ पे है रेफरेंस, आप आगे इसको पढ़ सकते हैं। ये इंडियन हार्ट जर्नल में 2014 में छपा था। प्राणायाम क्या होता है? प्राणायाम, मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि आप जितने भी लोग इसको सुन रहे हैं वो ज्यादातर लोग इसको जानते हैं। जो नहीं जानते हैं उनकी जानकारी के लिए बता दूं कि ये एक डिसिप्लिन फॉर्म ऑफ ब्रीदिंग है। ये सिर्फ ब्रेथ कंट्रोल मेथड नहीं है। इसके अंदर इंस्पिरेशन, ब्रेथ होल्ड और एक्सपिरेशन 1, 2 और 4 के अनुपात में किया जाता है। और इसका जो प्रभाव है वो इतना शानदार है कि आपके जो बॉडी के अंदर, ब्रेन के अंदर जो आपको खुशी देने वाले हार्मोन्स हैं, जिन्हें कि एंडोर्फिन्स बोलते हैं, और जो आपको ब्लिस देते हैं, वेलबींग का एक देते हैं और पेन रिलीफ करते हैं, वो रिलीज होते हैं। और उसका बहुत बड़ा कारण है, जो डॉक्टर रे ने आपको बहुत डिटेल में इसके ऊपर बताया, कि प्रो एंटी इंफ्लेमेटरी साइटोकाइन पाथवे जो हैं वो इसमें काफी बैलेंस हो जाते हैं प्राणायाम करने से। तो प्राणायाम करना कोई बहुत बड़ी डिफिकल्ट चीज नहीं है। आप लोग सभी प्राणायाम जो है वो यदि 10 मिनट भी कर लें डेली, अल्टरनेट नेजल नॉस्ट्रल ब्रीदिंग, तो बहुत फायदा आप सभी को हाई ब्लड प्रेशर में, हार्ट रेट वेरिएबिलिटी की प्रॉब्लम्स में, आपके दर्द में, आपके यदि आपको दर्द हो रहा है तो, या आप डिप्रेशन में है तो उसमें बहुत मदद करता है।
Doctor, sorry I'm interrupting you, but we're kind of running out of time, so can you please conclude in a minute? Yeah.
3-4 मिनट और। भ्रामरी प्राणायाम भी इसी तरह से एक बहुत ही उपयोगी यंत्र है, जिसको कि हम सभी लोगों को यूज करना चाहिए। अब योगा रिसर्च का जहां तक सवाल है, एक बड़ी समस्या ये है कि इतना सारा काम हुआ है, लेकिन रेंडमाइज्ड कंट्रोल ट्रायल जो कि पेनेशिया है मॉडर्न मेडिसिन के पास, इसको कि सिद्ध करने का कि ये एक बहुत ही उपयोगी है अथवा नहीं, वो बहुत कम हुई है। और हुई है तो भी उनकी पावर ऑफ स्ट्रेंथ जो है वो इतनी कम है कि उनको मेन स्ट्रीम ट्रीटमेंट में लाना अभी संभव नहीं है। इसी तरह से मैंने कॉकरन लाइब्रेरी एंड सिस्टमिक डेटाबेस रिव्यू किया, तो बहुत कम ऐसे रिव्यू मिलते हैं जिसमें कि ये मैं सिद्ध कर सकता हूँ, या कोई विदेशी वैज्ञानिक या मॉडर्न मेडिसिन का जो डॉक्टर है वो उसको अपने मेन स्ट्रीम ट्रीटमेंट प्रोसेस में लाना चाहेगा। तो मैं ये कोशिश करता हूँ कि, और चाहूँगा कि डॉक्टर गुरुजी ने एक हाई लेवल कंसल्टेटिव कमेटी, जो कि 2018 में हमारे आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री मोदी जी के इनिशिएटिव पर बनाई गई थी, एक इंटर यूनिवर्सिटी सेंटर योगिक साइंस का प्रपोज किया था। और अभी जो रिसेंटली अगस्त एंड में जो नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी आई है, उसके अंदर योगिक साइंस का जो महत्व हो सकता है वो बहुत ज़्यादा है। और मैं समझता हूँ कि आगे आने वाले समय में यदि फंडामेंटल साइंस और स्पिरिचुअलिटी, जो कि स्वामी विवेकानंद जी और निकोला टेस्ला ने प्रपोज किया है, यदि योगिक साइंस इंटर यूनिवर्सिटी सेंटर और सारे एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट्स में न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी के तहत यदि ये लागू हो जाए, तो वो दिन दूर नहीं जब हम योगा के द्वारा इस 10 बीमारियों के रावण को अच्छी तरह से मारने में सक्षम होंगे। नमस्कार, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मुझे सुनने के लिए।
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. It was wonderful to hear you in Hindi. आपने बहुत ही सरल भाषा में बहुत difficult और complex concept को represent किया है. Maybe at the end of the show, I would like to know what are the rest 9 heads of Ravana, because I couldn't see them very clearly in the presentation, but maybe towards the end of the program, because we have a lot of questions from the viewers also that are coming in, and we may have to take that. So now I invite Dr. Dilip Sarkar to share his views and, more importantly, his journey. As I have come to know, Dr. Sarkar is a retired vascular surgeon, turned into a certified yoga therapist and certified Ayurvedic yoga therapist. In fact, I have this knowledge that he was conferred with D.Litt from S. Vyasa for his knowledge in this field. He is actively giving out extensive knowledge of integrative medicine, including Ayurveda and yoga therapy. After 25 years of practice in as a vascular surgeon, he retired from the practice after suffering a heart attack. So he has his own studio. He runs a lot of therapy programs in the studio, and he's coming out with his book as well. So I invite Dr. Sarkar to share his beautiful journey into the world of yoga. Sir.
Dhanabad, Anjali. Dhanabad, Guruji, Indranil, and Dr. Gupta. I'm going to share my journey, and as Anjali just said, about 20 years back, I had a significant triple vessel disease. I had emergency triple vessel coronary bypass. So if a cardiac surgeon, you could talk about it. I had a lima on my LAD, and I had a 2 vein, 1 vein on my right, and my left circumflex was a very poor circumflex. He had to put 1 graft in your obtuse marginal. I did not have a good recovery. I have a lot of post-op complications. I don't want to go over with this, but somehow that since I've been exposed to yoga, and I started practicing yoga, and within about 6 months, I could see most of my symptoms started reducing. And in a Western medical therapy, I go for every yearly checkup. So I never been sick in my life. I have no so-called risk factors. My blood pressure is still 120/80. My blood sugar is 80. My cholesterol is 160. I don't have any truncal obesity. My parents lives up to 80s and 90s. So where is the disconnect? And then what happened that when I started doing this daily practice of yoga, that my myocardial perfusion scan started to get better. So I never had a myocardial perfusion scan. So I had one after my triple vessel coronary bypass, which showed a significant defect in the left apical area. And it was a obtuse marginal branch supply. And slowly, my friend cardiac surgeon says, if worse come worse, we can always do some intervention. But in the next 3 or 4 years, by 4th year, my complete myocardial perfusion test was normal. I've been doing a cardiac rehab. I've been doing also, I exercise, I do a little weight training. I do exactly what cardiac rehab does. I do, in my home. But essentially, after 4 years, I started negotiating with my doctors because, see, at the time when I had open heart surgery, they said, we cannot do anything. We have nothing, no risk factors. So what is that? Take a prescription of aspirin, statin, beta blocker, ACE inhibitor, and take it the rest of your life. So when I started looking at my myocardial perfusion is normal, I started negotiating. Why didn't you start reducing my medication? I'm a doctor. I'll come to you every year. Every year I go for a myocardial perfusion scan and a stress test. But all normal. I go to 100%, 110% stress test. So slowly started reducing the medication. So guess what? For the last 15 years, I have not taken a single medication, cardiac medication. But I do a daily practice. And 20 years, I enjoyed a life. I just finished hour and a half of my life. That's what I was late coming in. And mine was that exactly what cardiovascular disease is. So before I continue my journey, just take a couple of minutes. What we learned, you have heard from Guruji, heard from Basu, heard from Gupta. Today, what we find out, even in my condition, even all the people living in India, that root cause of cardiovascular disease is the stress, is the fear of unknown. It's an activation of an area of the brain called the limbic system. And in the limbic system, the two nuclei called amygdala and hippocampus. Amygdala responds to fear, hippocampus responds to your memory, sends a signal to hypothalamus. Hypothalamus sends a signal to autonomic nervous system and the pituitary gland. You have a high sympathetic overdrive. And through your pituitary adrenal axis, you have a high cortisol. Cortisol is the hormone of your stress. Cortisol converts your glucose into omental fat, which is the truncal obesity, which is the worst in India. Every other person in India has a huge truncal obesity. That omental fat, which is inside, secretes a pro-inflammatory molecule, which creates a diabetes, hypertension, coronary artery disease, dyslipidemia. This is a metabolic syndrome. Guess what? Practice of yoga is a relaxation response, activation of parasympathetic tone. It is a taming of the limbic system. It is correcting the disease at the root. It is not your angioplasty. It is not coronary bypass. It is not your aspirin, statin, beta blocker, ACE inhibitor. Those are called a band-aid. Those are called a tertiary therapy. Primary therapy at the root is a practice of yoga, which is relaxation response and parasympathetic activation. Today, I do not, miss a single day. I have a completely yogic lifestyle. It is called a dinocharya. I wake up between, our yogic time between 4 to 6. It's called Brahma Muhurto. I sit down. I drink a glass of water called a Ushapan. I do my tongue scraping. I do a Jalneti every single day. I do my morning. I even do called the Snehana and Swadhana. I put a self-massage. I have a steam box in my home. I practice every day about an hour, 25 minutes of asanas, 25 minutes pranayama, 10 minutes of meditation. And I follow exactly what is the yogic lifestyle. Then also every other day, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I do my treadmill. And in the treadmill, I do slowly and slowly I build up. I've been doing it during my cardiac rehab. Today, I do almost 4 miles per hour with a 10 to 15% elevation. And I sustain about 20 minutes. So I literally do a stress test every other day, even at home. I have a monitor. I'm a physician, so I know what to monitor. I have my whole Apple Watch. I have a cardiac monitor. So today, just to let you know that almost 20 years post triple vessel coronary bypass, I am disease-free by all Western medical diagnostic tool. I am medication-free. I do not take a single medication, no supplement, nothing. I'm enjoying a good quality life. I am like a Energizer battery. I wake up between 5:30, between 5 to 6 in the morning, go to bed by 10:30. I enjoy whole day. I have a multiple presentations. I did a whole program Friday, Saturday, this one. Tomorrow, I have another Zoom, which is a yoga therapy and COVID-19. So again, coming back to you, telling my journey and telling you that even the cardiologist, cardiac surgeon, I see patients after patient comes and tells me, my blood pressure is normal, my blood sugar is normal, I don't have a so-called risk factors. Why did I get a coronary artery disease? You get a coronary artery disease because of your limbic system. It is not your cortical part of your brain. Yoga is the answer to correct the coronary artery disease at the root. Thank you for giving me the time, and I do present, Indranil knows, I do present everywhere all over the world, and will be glad to come and present for you. And again, to my brothers and sisters of American Academy of Yoga and Meditation, God bless you. And again, I don't speak much Hindi, but only thing I know, Professor Gupta, Karo Yog, Raho Nirog. Is it good enough? Huh? Good enough. Karo Yog.
I can understand a bit of Bengali.
One more thing, what we find out is that a practice of yoga, and a practice will say within the practice, total transformative. What it transforms from a rogi to nirogi to yogi. I was a rogi, I became a nirogi. Today I'm a yogi. I'm enjoying a total blissful yogic life. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Sarkar. Thank you, Dr. Sarkar. Indeed, an inspirational talk. And looking at you, we can understand, your practice really shows on here. And as you said, rogi to nirogi to yogi. That's a wonderful message to take back home. And we hope that all our viewers here are sufficiently inspired to follow your way of life, the yogic way of life, the dinacharya, as you mentioned it. So we have very less time right now, but as promised to the viewers, we will take a few questions. And we are getting questions over our email and the WhatsApp number. The questions that we are not able to answer in today's session, we will be answering through our website and follow-up programs. So please keep connected with us at all the times. So this question that I would want to put forward is to all the panelists here. As Dr. Masuria mentioned about COVID-19, so people who have had this infection, we know that COVID-19 infection affects almost all the body parts, all our organs in a very adverse manner. But especially if we consider a heart, the study that you referred to talks about damage to the heart muscle, in which case, what should be done? What kind of yoga should be practiced to reverse this condition? And is it even possible?
Yeah. I mean, it's a new finding, so we really don't know what it exactly means. But there are a couple of things that is very sure. When they took the autopsy of people who died due to COVID, they found that there are people who had the virus actually inside their heart and the virus was replicating, but they had no heart damage. But there were other people who did not have active virus in their heart, but they had heart damage, which makes us believe that at least in some cases, maybe I might even dare to say the majority of the cases, the damage is not mediated directly by the virus, but it is mediated by the body itself. Due to these dangerous chemicals that I talked about, particularly interleukin-6. So the thing is that if you are not a practitioner of yoga, you should practice yoga. Because remember, yoga, 4 weeks to 6 weeks of yoga increases immunoglobulin A, which is the molecule that is lungs, your cell lining in your lungs. The virus enters through your lung mucosa. So immunoglobulin A is the first protector. It is the first. It's like the border security force. It stands at the border and prevents enemies from entering. So that is increased almost 10 times in by 4 to 6 weeks of yoga. There have been almost 4 studies on that. So that's one thing. So that is called that is part of what we call the innate immunity. It also increases macrophage killing. So once the virus enters, body tries in many ways to kill it using so-called the innate immunity. And one of them is macrophage directed killing, and that is also increased with yoga. So everybody today should practice as a prevention. I think the first vaccine, before the real vaccine comes out, is practicing yoga. That's number one. Number two is people who have had COVID. Practice of yoga will tend to make the COVID, I guess, based on at least direct research in COVID patients, but they found research on cancer and other HIV cancer and other diseases where you see just like COVID, lot of interleukin-6 release, but yoga actually prevents release of interleukin-6. It decreases release of interleukin-6, so that would be good. So chance of COVID guys having moderate to severe COVID would be less. Finally,
Right.
everybody having COVID, if you know you have COVID, it is good to get yourself checked. I mean, there's no guideline, but what I tell my patient is that 3 weeks, at 3 months and 6 months, they should get echo to make sure if there's a fall in EF, which is the cardiac contractility. There has been mild fall in cardiac EF in this German patients, but a very small amount, like 10 to 15% patient only had a small cardiac fall in cardiac EF. We have no long-term follow-up, so we do not know what happens in the long term. But my main thing is that do follow up with a cardiologist if you ever have COVID. Certainly if you have risk factors, but even if you don't have risk factors like hypertension, diabetes, as this study showed, if you're a young guy playing football or doing exercises and stuff like that, don't get fooled that COVID don't infect your heart. Still get yourself followed up with it.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Basure. Dr. Nirmal Gupta, right, Dr. Dilip Sarkar would like to add something to this. Yes,
Okay.
Dr. Sarkar.
Okay. Dr. Ray said a lot of things. The direct effect of COVID-19 is absolutely on the myocardium, other than the phases, what you see in the lungs. So the after effect of a myocarditis, if we see the patients, as Dr. Ray said, there is some evidence of lowering of the ejection fraction. A practice of yoga, since the relaxation response, what it does, it relaxes your peripheral resistance. As a cardiologist here understands what I'm talking about, both of them. It is called a reduction of the afterload. The afterload is get reduced with yoga practice, and with a good pranayama practice, which is an effortless pranayama, you have an increase in the negative intrathoracic pressure, you have an increase in the preload. You have an increase in the preload, and you have a reduction in the afterload, and that is give a relief of the cardiac function, cardiac contractility, and this is a God-saved blessings for myocardium and coronary artery disease in the phase of COVID-19. So again, the take-home message is increase in the preload and reduction in the afterload. In effect, that is increases your ejection fraction. Thank you for letting me contribute on this question.
Thank you so much. Dr. Gupta, one question by the viewer here. वो पूछ रहे हैं कि अगर उनकी बाईपास सर्जरी हुई है तो उसके बाद क्या वो योगा प्रैक्टिसेस कर सकते हैं, कि तुरंत कर सकते हैं या कुछ दिन रुकने के बाद कर सकते हैं, और उसके बाद योगा प्रैक्टिस कितने दिन करनी चाहिए ताकि उनको वापस से किसी सर्जरी या किसी और प्रॉब्लम का शिकार ना होना पड़े?
बहुत अच्छा सवाल है, और मैंने थोड़ा इसको एड्रेस किया था कि योगा शब्द के बारे में बड़ा भारी कंफ्यूजन है, और मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि इनका सवाल जो है वो उसी कंफ्यूजन से निकल के आ रहा है। इनको लगता है कि योगा का मतलब है कि कसरत करना, तो ऐसा नहीं। योगा अष्टांग योग जो है, यम, नियम, आसन, धारणा, ध्यान, समाधि, प्रत्याहार, तो ये जो 8 अंग हैं, इनमें से आसन वाला पार्ट जो है उसको ये जब तक कि ये एक्सटर्नल वुंड हील नहीं हो जाता, इसको लगभग 6 हफ्ता लगता है, 6 हफ्ते से लेकर 3 महीना लगता है। तब तक ये आसन ना करें और बाकी सब कर सकते हैं, और करना चाहिए, क्योंकि योगा इज नॉट पर्टिकुलर पोस्चर और पर्टिकुलर थिंग। योगा इज अ वे ऑफ लाइफ। गुरुजी ने बताया यम, नियम, आसन, ये सब चीजें जो है, यम में 5-6 चीजें आती हैं कि हमें अपना जीवन कैसे चलाना है। नियम में 6 चीजें आती हैं कि हमें उन चीजों को कैसे अपने जीवन में अपनाना है। तो एक CABG हुआ हो, बल्कि मैं तो कहता हूं कि वो जो ICU में भी पड़ा है तो भी अपना ध्यान लगा सकते हैं, उनको अपना ध्यान लगाना चाहिए। यदि वो ध्यान लगाएंगे तो उनका दर्द भी कम होगा, उनकी एंजाइटी भी कम होगी, और एड्रेनर्जिक रिस्पॉन्स भी बॉडी में कम निकलेगा, उसकी वजह से उनका हीलिंग बेटर होगा और वो जल्दी ठीक हो जाएंगे। मैं साइंटिफिकली तो प्रूफ नहीं कर पाऊंगा, लेकिन मैंने अपने जो कार्डियक वार्ड है, रिकवरी वार्ड, वहाँ पे बहुत हल्का ध्यान मेडिटेशन और ये जो म्यूजिक चलाता हूँ, और इसका ये प्रभाव पड़ा है कि मरीज जो नॉर्मली आपको कंप्लेंट करते मिलते हैं वो हमारे वार्ड में बिल्कुल नहीं करते हैं, वो बड़े खुश होते हैं। और इसका धर्म से भी कोई संबंध नहीं है, सभी धर्मों के लोग आते हैं लखनऊ में। तो वहाँ पे जो हल्का सा जो ध्यान म्यूजिक जो चलता है उससे उनकी एंजाइटी लेवल बहुत कम हो जाती है और वो आसानी से सो पाते हैं और बड़ी जल्दी रिकवर होके जाते हैं। 99% मरीज जो है वो 5 से लेके 7 दिन में रिकवर होकर घर चले जाते हैं।
जी, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर दैट इन्फॉर्मेशन।
इनको करना चाहिए, केवल आसन नहीं करना चाहिए शुरू में।
जी, अब जल्दी से आप हमको बता दीजिए कि वो 9 सर कौन से हैं जो हम ठीक से देख नहीं पाए आपके प्रेजेंटेशन में।
रे साहब ने बहुत अच्छे से बताया। ये देखिए, ये देखें, शुरू में अभी दिख रहा है आपको?
एक मिनट।
इस्कीमिक हार्ट डिजीज, COPD, स्ट्रोक, डायरियल डिजीज, लोअर रेस्पिरेटरी ट्रैक्ट इन्फेक्शन, ट्यूबरक्लोसिस, नियोनेटल डिसऑर्डर्स, एस्थमा, डायबिटीज और क्रॉनिक किडनी डिजीज। ये ही वो 10 सर हैं जो मैंने यहाँ पे चिपकाए हुए हैं।
जी जी जी।
ये जो 10 किलर बीमारियां हैं जो कि सबसे ज्यादा लोगों को मार रही हैं इस दुनिया में आज, और देखिए सब लाइफ स्टाइल डिजीजेस हैं, सिर्फ एक दो को छोड़ के। तो ये सारी जो ये वो रावण है हमारे।
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू सर। वन last but one question for Dr. Dilip Sarkar. There's one viewer who is asking us, can a person with chronic heart disease do Kapalabhati Shuddhi Kriya or Kapalabhati Pranayama as it's popularly known as?
Yes. See, the whole practice of yoga is a therapy, therapeutic yoga. The therapeutic yoga is called the adaptation of the yoga practices. You know, as everybody has said, remember yoga practice, yoga is a darshan, 196 sutras, of which 193 is quieting down your mind. Practice is your 8 limbs, yam, niyam, asana, pranayam, pratyahar, dhyan, dharan, samadhi. But all the practices are called effortless ease. Remember, we have a dis-ease. You know, Sanskrit, we call it ashuk. Sukh jab chala jata, we have ashuk. Disease, if you spell, D-I-S-E-A-S-E. So the whole yoga practice is called the effortless ease. What is the effortless ease is, when you do even an asana practice, that asana, what our Yoga Sutra says, sthiram sukham asanam. So even in Kapalabhati Pranayama, patient with a cardiac disease, think about it, it is so fascinating that we do a very slow Kapalabhati Pranayama. We do a slow Kapalabhati Pranayama to the point that it is like the person's normal breathing. What does normal breathing means? He or she can talk, she can sing. So now look at it. We have a balloon here, abdomen, we have a diaphragm, and we have a chest. Now the moment you do Kapalabhati Pranayama, you are pushing your belly button to the back, you are hitting the diaphragm, you are hitting the lung, air is coming out. Guess what? In between the lung, you have the heart. So you are literally massaging the heart from inside very gently. And look at what we do. You know, Dr. Gupta and Basu, when person has a cardiac arrest, we pump, we call it CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation. What is cardiopulmonary resuscitation? It is a massaging the heart. We're massaging the heart. Kapalabhati Pranayama, I call it as a slow internal CPR, massaging. So person like me, I have a serious coronary artery disease. Yes, I started Kapalabhati Pranayama the way I sit down straight, my eyes closed, I do my mudras, Dhyana Mudra, and I do very slowly. And initially, I may have done 30 seconds. But in the yoga practices, in stages, impossible become possible. I have patients after patient who comes and says, I'm doing Kapalabhati Pranayama, my blood pressure is going high up, my blood sugar is going high up, I am feeling really miserable. You know what answer is? You are doing too fast, you are not listening to your body's signal. Your body's signal is called an effortless ease. The
right. So under proper guidance, one can do Kapalbhati pranayama.
I think more guidance is introspection. The doctor within you. You will learn from everybody.
Right.
The moment
right.
you learn from everybody, but when you are doing a daily practice, I always say, close your eyes. You start looking inside. Self-realization, we talk about, we call it developing real eyes. Eyes turning backwards. Now what you're doing, instead of looking outside, you're looking inside. You are looking inside. So with the guidance is okay. But your most important guidance is here. Your introspection. Looking inside you. During Kapalbhati Pranayama, you feel you a little bit of any symptoms. Slow down. Don't stop. And I don't want anybody to stop. Slow down. Doing with a called Sukha. Sthiram Sukham Asana. The moment you do any practice with a Sukham, that is yoga as a therapy. The moment, the moment that what Gupta was saying, the moment you are doing, yoga, asanas, even pranayama rapidly, it becomes an exercise. Right. Exercise is a sympathetic overdrive. It raises your heart rate, raises your blood pressure, respiratory rate. You know how the exercise works. When sympathetic overdrive, your hypothalamus then, body homeostasis, increases your parasympathetic tone. So we as a physician, what we see, what is your resting pulse rate? Resting pulse rate is down, not due to sympathetic overdrive. It's due to parasympathetic activation. So in a yoga practice, it is a primary parasympathetic activation. In an exercise, it is a sympathetic overdrive followed by parasympathetic activation. And during that sympathetic overdrive, we have all the catastrophes. During
Thank you. Right. Thank you, doctors. Sorry, I'm interrupting you because we're running out of time. And one final question we need to take here. This is for Dr. Basure. One of our viewers has mentioned this. What are the resources? What resources are there for edification on this type of mindfulness, or is it simply inherent to all types of yogas? This is the question that one of our user is asked. So probably what the user is probably trying to say is the Ashtanga part of that which we spoke about, mindfulness or meditation. So would you want to
so there's a lot of controversy, there's a lot of misunderstanding about so-called mindfulness, especially in the West. Everybody does mindfulness. So it is important to understand this, as Dr. Nirmal Gupta says, it's like 22,000 years old thing. Even if I take what modern historian says, it's 5,000 years, whatever it is. But at least for 5,000 years, we had that mindfulness. And that mindfulness in yoga is dharan. So it is nothing that has just come out for the first time and it is a magic that we are seeing for the first time. It is a lot of Westerners who have no concept of yoga suddenly found out that this mindfulness is a magic. But mindfulness is just one of the 8 steps. So you do dhyan. Before you reach dhyan, which is meditation, you have to go through dharana. If you look at Ken Upanishad, there's a clear-cut description that when you try to concentrate on a point, like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also says, but though the meaning is a little hidden, he's talking of concentrating on the tip of your nose. So basically, it's not concentrating on the tip of your nose. Yeah, he's asking you to concentrate on your breath. And same if you look at Mahanirvana Tantra, Shiva is telling Parvati, that's the way the book has been written. I don't know who said who, but basically it is neither Shiva or Parvati. Is basically one of those powerful rishis who's telling it in the name of Shiva, that you basically concentrate on your breath till you reach that mindfulness, and that it automatically lead to dhyana. So in 12 seconds, if you concentrate on a point, that is the basic level of samadhi, that you'll reach automatically. But the problem is a lot of these Western people who have first found out that, because that has come mostly from Buddhist literature, which is fine, that's not a problem at all, it has nothing to do with religion. But the entire concept of mindfulness is one part and parcel of yoga for this 22,000 years that we had yoga concept, maybe even older than that. The reason we in yoga has not given it the importance is not because it is not important, it is because it is just part of the process. As Guruji said, the ultimate importance in yoga is not to have how good you do your physical exercises, how much can you bend your legs, how much can you bend your neck, or how long you can go into samadhi. The reason is you're part and parcel of this entire creation. So your achievement is being one with the creator. You can do whatever the creator can do. That is the extent. So anything lesser than that is not important in yoga. I mean, you can bend your back and stay for 5 hours. God bless you. You may be the best yoga practitioner in the world, but that is not important in yoga at all, as the Dr. and Nirmal Gupta cited that physical exercises and maneuvering your body is a process that is not considered to be the super most important part of yoga. The part of yoga is actually exercise maneuvering makes it an exercise where your sympathetic stimulation takes place. That is exactly what yoga doesn't want you to do. So I hope that makes sense. So this mindfulness is nothing and not an element that is creeped up. It is just a part and parcel of yoga. But and modern Western scholars are slowly understanding it. Unfortunately, what has happened is a whole large section of Western observers who have made their entire career out of mindfulness. So suddenly, in the midst of everything, they are worried. Oh, how come mindfulness is just part of yoga? Unfortunately, it is. It's been there for 10,000 years. I mean, come out of the blue, or come out for the first time, or we discovered for the first time.
Right. Thank you so much for that insight, Dr. Basure. So we have grossly run over time in our program since we wanted to answer all the questions, and yet there are a couple of questions left over. So I would urge all the viewers to come back to our website, check your questions being answered there. So to sum up today's program, we may say that the yogic practices and lifestyle should be introduced as an integral part of treatment, not only at personal level between doctor and patient, but also in tertiary hospitals and probably health centers. And the policymakers should also consider holistic and integrative practices as preventive medicine, maybe even considering making this part of curriculum of medical students to have non-pharmacological practices like yoga and meditation. So on that note, I would like to conclude today's webinar. But before I do that, let me remind you about our next webinar, which is on the 17th October. This is on integrative methods for managing diabetes mellitus. So please tune in on 17th October at the same time, that is 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. I would like to conclude this webinar by thanking Guruji and our panelists. Also our sponsors are our Cable and our associates IPNOS and FICA, the entire American Academy of Yoga and Meditation team, and Ganges Mississippi Dialogue team. And a big thank you to all our viewers who have stayed on in spite of the program running over time. Thank you so much for attending this live webinar. And please do not forget to check our website and Facebook and leave your comments on that. Thank you and namaskar.
Thank you.